my name is Rachel and I'm here today to talk about all the books that I read in the month of May. Yeah, I had a really amazing month of reading in May. Kind of ended up with a little bit of an Irish readathon at the end, which wasn't intended, and I didn't realise I was doing. The first book I have to take the post-its off. I have to go through and put post-its on them so I remember what rating I gave them. So the first one is Donut the Destroyer, I just nearly hit myself in the face, by Sarah Grayley and Steph Purinins. I have read Kim Reaper by, I think that was just Sarah Grayley, but I can't remember. And then I've read a travel comic that the two of these wrote together when they was going to Canada, which was really good. So I've read a few things by these. They've never been like super popular before, or I don't think they have. And then this has come out and this is very popular, especially in schools, because it's a graphic novel that's aimed at children. A lot of graphic novels have mature themes or a lot of violence, so it's quite difficult to be able to order them for school libraries. Books like this, especially if they have Scholastic on them there, you normally know they're fine to have in a library. This is one that has been getting quite popular because of that, and it is about a girl called Donut. She is from a family of villains, and in this world you kind of train either to be a villain or a good guy, and all of her family are villains. It's a big tradition and they want her to be a villain, but she decides, no, actually I think I'm a hero. I think I'm gonna go to hero school. It sounds really silly, but it is quite good. I gave it 2.5 stars in the end just because I think it's a little bit too silly, where I would prefer a graphic novel with more serious themes, but that doesn't degrade this at all because I did really enjoy it and it was a fun read. It just wasn't my favourite ever. So 2.5 stars for this one. And then the other book we have that was 2.5 stars is The Weight of Water by Sarah Crossan. This looks absolutely perfect, and like I didn't read it because I read it on my Kindle at work during my lunch breaks. I finished this one. Now I've read a lot of Sarah Crossan books, and what I have learned is her writing is getting stronger and stronger to the point where her book Toffee is one of my favourite things ever, and I'm really excited to pick up, is it Here Are the Bees or something like that? I really want to read that book. I'm trying to save money because I'm getting married later this year, but oh my god, I want that book. I read this one and I think it does fall victim to being one of her earlier books. This is the first one that she's wrote like in that free verse type of way that she does, and I think you can tell, and I don't know, I think she takes on a lot bigger themes in her earlier books, like this one as well. One is like her big popular book, and I don't like that as much, whereas I absolutely adored Moonrise and Toffee, which I think are a bit quieter. Yeah, I did really enjoy this, but I ended up giving it 2.5 stars. I really enjoyed not the father, but she has like a kind of surrogate father once she moves to England, and that's really beautiful, their like relationship that they have. I think it just falls down, and especially because I've read We Come Apart that she wrote with Brian Crossley, and I think that does it a lot better because we have people who have come over and they're immigrants and it's reflected in the text, whereas in this she says like she's got broken English and she's in lower classes just because of her English, even though like she's amazing at maths and things, but we don't see it in the text, and I think I wouldn't have noticed it if I hadn't read We Come Apart. And because I've read that, I'm like, I know how good it can be if you involve that in the text. I kind of wanted that. Do you know what I mean? So 2.5 stars in the end. I'm really glad I read it and I did enjoy it. It's just not my favourite. Next, we have American Born Chinese by Jean Luan Yang. And I gave this one 3 stars. I've been meaning to read this for so long. And I've had it on my shelf for way too long. And then I did a video recently where I was going through all my shelves at my mum and dad's, and I seen this and was like, oh, I've been meaning to read that for so long. And this is about a boy who is, like, his heritage is Chinese, but he is American. But it's all about the sort of way that he's treated because of his visible heritage and also his internalized, is it racism or xenophobia? I feel like I want to say it's xenophobia, but I can't remember. He's got a lot of internalized prejudice towards himself. This story kind of twists towards the end and I enjoyed the way that it twisted. However, I gave it 3 stars because this is just not the art style for me. I hated the art style, and so I was reading it and I was really enjoying it, but at the same time I could never enjoy it too much because I was like, I really don't like the art style. So that's why it's got 3 stars in the end, because obviously with a graphic novel, that's so much of the story and the reading experience. And next we have a book that I don't have a physical copy of, so I will insert a picture, but it is Wrong Number Right Woman by Jay. So Jay writes a lot of lesbian love story type books, like contemporaries. She's doing a great job in her field. Absolutely fantastic. And this book was no different. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. So her books in general, like, I've never given like 5 stars. I think 4 stars is the highest, and that's my favourite one. So this is quite a high rating for a J book, to be fair, and I did really enjoy it, but it just wasn't my favourite. I really enjoyed the characters, and I enjoyed the extremely slow burn aspect of this story, but it was a little bit boring. You know, like meandering its way through. I just think it had its issues a little bit, in that it probably could have been edited or just added a little bit more stakes, if you know what I mean, like a little bit more risk. So I enjoyed that. I didn't actually say. This is about a woman who, a girl texts her one day and is like, what do you think of this outfit for my date? She's going on a date with a man. The woman's like, I have no idea who you are, but you look amazing. And they just basically end up continuing to talk, developing a relationship. Really enjoyed it, but not my favourite. So we gave that 3.5 stars. And then we have another book that I gave 3.5 stars this month. So now, Sarah Crossan is an Irish author, and I read her in the latter half of this month. And then all of the rest of these books I read in the latter half of this month, and they're all by Irish authors. Yeah, it was just a very Irish situation going on. But it is Beautiful World, Where Are You?, which I gave 3.5 stars. Really enjoyed this book. I think it's so stunning as well. So this book is about 2 girls who were best friends when they were children, Alice and Eileen, and they both have male partners or men that they are interested in. One's called Felix and one called Simon. I would say this is similar to her other books in that it just focuses on the connections that all those characters have with each other and how their lives play out sort of interlinked with each other. That's kind of the vibe of every Sally Rooney book I've learned, because I have read them all now. Really enjoyed this one. I think this book is a very happy book. I wasn't expecting it, and I read it and I was like, why was I not expecting it? Because to be fair, I think her books are quite happy. I think because of her focus on the little things and descriptions and illness and all that sort of stuff, she gets a rap as a more depressing author, I would say. However, all of her books focus on romance and the connections that humans can have, and how that can be life, like that can be the thing that means the most in people's lives. And I think that's quite a happy message, to be fair. Yeah, I don't know how she's managed to get herself a rap as a quite sad author. Well, for me she had anyway, because when I was reading this at the end I was like, why am I not expecting this? Her books kind of are quite happy anyway. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. The reason it's 3.5 stars is that I found it a bit boring. The first bit I found boring, then I really got into it. I'd say from like 2/10 to 6/10. Then 6/10 to 8/10 I got bored. 8/10 to the end I was interested again. So it was quite an up and down situation that I had with this book. I would say it is a really great read, and I do enjoy it quite a lot. Next I read a short story / novella. So I don't have a physical copy of it, but it is At the Clinic, which is also by Sally Rooney. And I'm going to also talk about Normal People by Sally Rooney. Normal People I gave 4 stars, and At the Clinic I gave 4.5 stars. I'm going to talk about them both in tandem really, because obviously they are really connected. So if you aren't aware, At the Clinic is a short story that Sally Rooney wrote before Normal People. It focuses on Connell and Marianne. Basically, after she wrote it, she was still interested in those characters and in what happened to them next, and so she wrote Normal People. At the Clinic, I read it after Normal People, but it feels like an extension of Normal People. It feels like it could be the preface or the epilogue to the book, which is why they are so connected. Normal People I gave 4 stars, and I would say 4/5 of this book were amazing and 5-star. Something about the end just lost me a little bit. I think it went off focus, shall we say, and I didn't enjoy it as much. This, I mean, I could describe the plot of this book, but there isn't much. It is about Connell and Marianne, the connection they have throughout their lives with each other, and the relationships that they come in and out of, and the relationship that still stands strong between the two of them. And yeah, it's amazing. I love Sally Rooney's writing style, and this was no different. It was absolutely amazing. But yeah, like I said, the ending just let it down a little bit for me. And then at the clinic, I gave 4.5 stars because it was like the first 4/5 of this without this annoying ending that brought it down. In my opinion, it was a little bit better because it didn't have that sad dip. But then I don't think I would have enjoyed that story half as much if I hadn't have read Normal People and already been invested in the characters. So they both need each other, really. This one I gave 4 stars, At the Clinic 4.5 stars. Enjoyed both of them thoroughly. And yeah, I've read everything by Sally Rooney now, and I really enjoy her books. I did a reading vlog of the whole experience of reading all of them. By the time I put this up, I think I will have already put that video up, so I will link it somewhere if I have. Last book, 5 stars. Another Irish author. It will probably come as no surprise to anyone that I went out and immediately bought this book. It was on my anticipated releases video. I have talked multiple times about how this is probably my favourite author. I just love what she writes, what she decides to write about, as well as the themes and just everything. I just love it, and this book was no different. And it is Idle by Louise O'Neill. So this is Louise O'Neill's new book. Go out and buy it. It's absolutely stunning. Oh my god. So, right, let's talk about this book. This book is about Samantha. And Samantha is an influencer, so she has books out, she does talks and like courses on healing yourself. She has like YouTube channels. You understand what I mean. They're kind of like Instagram famous type of vibe. That's Samantha. She has based a lot of this career out of abuse that she feels she suffered when she was a child and a teenager, some sexual assaults that happened to her. She had addictions, a lot of bad things that happened to her in the past that she managed to overcome to be successful. And so she brands a lot of her work on her ability to overcome such things, telling her audience that they can do that as well if they can overcome the past traumas that they've suffered. She has just had a new book come out. For this new book, she's done like a featurette type article, like a special edition type thing, which is a blog post about her and her best friend Lisa when they were teenagers, and it is a sexual experience that they had together, about how she felt during that sexual experience. Obviously the essay is never put in the book, but I think the basic premise of this essay is it isn't to do with a lesbian experience, it's to do with a connection and an experience that her and her friend had to deepen their friendship. It's kind of put across more that way. Like the inciting incident, the big event, her manager rings her up within the first like 2 chapters to say Lisa has contacted her and said that she doesn't remember this sexual encounter the way that Samantha does, and actually she thinks that she was sexually assaulted and that Samantha took advantage of her. And that is the basis of this book. We see Samantha going back to her hometown and where she grew up, going back to her parents' place, all that sort of stuff, to try and talk to Lisa and get her to withdraw the accusation, because her online life and her career is plummeting with this news, because obviously it undoes everything that she's ever said on her channel about believing women, about sexual assaults, because obviously she is someone who had been sexually assaulted in her past and all that sort of stuff. Some of that might seem like spoilers. Honestly, all of that you learn in the first like 2 chapters. Oh my god, this book is amazing. This is probably one of the best books Louise O'Neill's ever wrote, because the intricacy of her writing style in this is phenomenal. We are with Samantha now and her conscious thoughts of what's happening, and we also go back in time to see the time that this sexual encounter happened and a few months previous. We get both of those viewpoints of the story. There's just a weaving of like memory and truth together, and it's just done so beautifully. Oh my god, there's a paragraph near the end. Something seems to be happening. and you don't know if it's going to happen or not, and it kind of starts to happen and then it retreats, and I don't really want to say much more than that, but I remember reading it and being like, God, that is so masterful. That explains this entire book. Like, it explains the entire narrative, going back to the very start, why this whole thing has happened, and this whole like stance that Samantha has in her head, and just everything. Like, it's just, oh my God, it's so well done. I absolutely love this book. The characters are amazing. We've got the staple unlikable main character that I think is in every Louise O'Neill book. It had no issue for me. I absolutely loved it either way. And yeah, I would highly recommend this book. It is amazing. I would recommend every one of Louise O'Neill's books, but this one was an absolute stunner. So yeah, would definitely pick this up. And it was my favourite book I read this month. I feel like this year I'm going to have the longest list of like my favourite books I read of this year. There's already too many books on that list and we're only halfway through. So I feel like that list is going to be long this year. So these are all the books that I read in the month of May, not counting the other 2 that I also read. So that was 8 books. I had a really good reading month this month, so I'm really happy with that. If you've read any of these books and want to talk to me about them in the comments down below, please do, especially this one. Would love to chat about that. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!